All right, and we are live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, August 10th. Let me go ahead and pull up the stream on my phone. Dave, make sure that you have it. If you don't, let me know. And let me get it pulled up. All right, we got 10 people in the chat. Thank you for being here. Again, Dave and I are here for an hour, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, answering any and all of your Steelers questions. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Let's see what we got. 5 weeks from today, right?
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Hopefully this
5 weeks
football.
from the well, hopefully. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we're at. Hello to everybody in the chat. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Yeah, we already got a couple questions in here, and yeah, hopefully this football, because college football is in a very weird place right now, and the Penguin season, unfortunately, has ended, and they do not get the number one pick, so not even a consolation prize there. So, all right, let's see, we got in the chat, we got Xander, Donald, Rob, ODG Dorkman, Mutated Genome is here as always, Ryan Allen, Patrick Donovan. Again, any Steelers questions you guys have, ask it in the chat. Dave and I will be more than happy to answer it. If we get any free time, we'll talk about some of the things on the site, including Dave's roster prediction before training camp really officially kicks off, even though technically has gotten underway. Let's see here. Donald Nolan has a question.
You trying to say I don't get? You trying to say I don't get full credit?
No, you get full credit. You get full credit.
Okay.
You play the
All
long
right.
game. You're smart about this stuff. I'm too impatient
Uh,
with posting the roster. Donald Nolan asks, and this is a question you could probably answer better than I might be able to, Dave. Every photo from practice camp with Marcus Allen in it has him standing off to the side, not wearing a jersey. Any insight? I have not paid as much attention to the photo gallery as you have, Dave. Any thoughts there?
No, but I tell you, he likes to dance quite a bit, evidently, and no, I haven't gone that deep into it. Here's the thing: if he was injured and not practicing at all, he would have been put on the active PUP list. If there was anything wrong with him. Now, maybe if this has happened since the start, maybe he's got a hamstring pull or something like that. I guess I'd have to go back to day one or whatnot and look at the photos that way. I haven't noticed that, but obviously there's maybe a slight, you know, uh, maybe there's a slight probability he has a muscle pull, soft tissue injury of some sort. But I have not noticed that, so I can't really comment on it.
Yeah, I can't either. I know he's always kind of had some lingering stuff in camp. I think his rookie year, he missed some time. Even last year, missed, I think, a slight bit of time as well. So I'd have to try to compare and contrast. And obviously, with us not being there, it's so hard to really glean any insight into what's going on and the protocols and who knows what's happening this year. So it's just going to be tough for us to get that information to you, Donald. I'm sorry.
Right,
Rob,
and once again, if
mhm,
he entered camp with an issue or whatever, they would have put him on active PUP.
right.
So, if indeed something is wrong with him, then it happened after they started, doing the on the field work. But as far as specifics and whether or not he is dealing with something, obviously don't know.
And to say the obvious, if he is dealing with something and missing time, while this is kind of like an OTA setting, any time missed for him is really going to hurt him all the more because he is fighting for his life for a roster spot right now after missing the 53 last season. Rob Coe says, "What's up, my dudes? Hey, Rob, thank you for being here."
Hi, Rob.
Mutated Genome again here as well. Ryan Allen asks a question: should the Steelers sign Josh McCown or Blake Bortles and release JT Barrett? Well, Barrett's already been released as part of the cut down to 80. And the four quarterbacks they have right now, Ben, Rudolph, Paxton Lynch, and Duck Hodges are the four they're going to carry. Don't expect any movement with any veteran guy coming in, Ryan.
No, there's not. They're not going to do anything with a quarterback, barring an injury or something like that. I mean, we this has been their plan all throughout the offseason. So
Mm-hmm.
they've got now the four quarterbacks that they want on this 80-man roster, and then we'll see, which one is the third one come cut down day, and we'll see if whether or not they put a fourth one on the practice squad then.
Yeah, I think both of our roster predictions have them keeping four quarterbacks, three on the 53 and a fourth on the practice squad, which is probably the pragmatic thing to do given the what situation that happened last year and obviously the COVID situation that's looming over everyone's head this year. And Ryan, just since you brought it up, yeah, there's going to be a lot of rumors right now. I saw, and this is very much a air quote report that the Steelers had interest in Blake Bortles or Bortles had rumored to have interest in him, and the report was nothing substantive. So just be very wary of those things this time of year, especially when everyone's starved for content.
And look, if we thought there was any truth to any of this stuff, it would be on our site. I
Hmm.
guarantee you. Alex and I live on the internet all day. It's what we do. It's our jobs to do that as well. So if there was any inkling of truth to any of these things floating around, we would be writing about and talking about it.
Absolutely. It'd be fun to see Josh McCown in Pittsburgh just to get a new jersey for him. He's like on half the leagues in his career already, so that'd be fun to add to his collection.
You
Pa-
know, people are going to take that now as Alex
Yep.
thinks the Steelers should sign
You'll
McCown.
see the
So.
articles tomorrow on your local blog. Patrick Donovan, with COVID happening, when a player gets brought up due to someone catching it, is that player subject to waivers when we release him to bring the starter back? I believe no. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I believe there's an exemption for some of those guys going back to the practice squad this year.
So read that to me again.
Patrick's basically asking like somebody is put on the COVID list, a starter, for example, and someone from the practice squad gets called up. When they go back to the practice squad, are they subject to waivers? I believe there's an exemption for practice squad guys in that scenario this year.
Yeah, for the guys that go up on, well, isn't that the guys that go up on, to make the 55-man roster?
I think it's both. I think that was the initial plan pre-COVID, and I think there also may be some sort of just general COVID exception, but I'm not 100% sure. But you're right. To the rosters when they go from 53 to 55, the two floaty guys to make it 55, I believe, are exempt from practice squad or from
Right,
waivers, I
right,
should say.
right.
It's a little wonky. It's a brave new world for all of us, but I believe it's the gist of it, Patrick. And he says
Right,
hello.
but even so, you would think past what I'm trying. I'll have to research a lot. Obviously this is new times and new rules and all like that. But I wouldn't think that just every guy called up, every
Hmm.
single guy past. I guess if you did it on the weekend, if it was a turnaround within a certain amount of days of that 55. Then that's fine. But I think if you had to bring a guy up in the middle of a week or something like that, and then try to get him back at through waive. At some point, I would think that player would have to clear waivers at some point if it was outside the window of the 55. But I'll have to
All right.
research that. Once again, we're dealing with such things being thrown at us right now. But I'll look into that.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one. Patrick, Ben, and John, and Wes, I'll say hello. Hello, guys. Thank you for being here. Again, Dave and I here for an hour to answer any and all of your Steelers questions. Rob Coe says, I'm looking to start a YouTube channel where I talk about the Steelers and film from all 22. Do you have to have permission to use Game Pass material? No, you don't have to have any explicit permission to use Game Pass, is my understanding, Rob. I have not had an issue with it. Patrick Donovan also asked, with no preseason, does Chooks have the advantage to be the right tackle due to him being the one against Rams and Broncos? And will we play merry-go-round with these two the first few games till one proves himself? I think a core four has the advantage, not inherently because there's no preseason, but just because whenever they've needed a right tackle with the games you cited, Patrick, they've gone to a core four. Now, I think this battle's really close. I think it could go either way. Not be surprised if either start. And I have thought the idea maybe they do kind of rotate to some capacity depending on how things go, but there are certainly cons to doing that as well. So I think Chooks just has the advantage just because he's been the next man up when they've needed a right tackle. And other than that, it's kind of hard to really give a lot of insight on how that battle is going to play out.
While I'm sure they're declaring it an open competition, I would think
Sure.
it's more Chooks to lose for all the reasons that you stated. Look, they have a little bit more. Have not that it matters. The best guy going to win, is going to get that position there. But obviously have a draft pick invested in him as well too. Now, once they decide who's going to be the week one guy, I don't envision any kind of a rotation there. I would like to think that they would stick with the guy
Hmm.
unless he just needs benching and bring the other guy in to take over there. I wouldn't see them kind of rotating snaps during the season personally. Not that they couldn't do it, but I just envision once they deciding on who their week one right tackle is going to be, that's going to be the guy unless he's playing bad.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that assessment. I guess the way I should have phrased it is that whoever becomes the right tackle out of the gate week one against the Giants, their job is not necessarily secure. Where you could see that change a couple weeks into the season if, like you said, they're not playing up to par.
Sure, sure. If you're not playing well, then yeah, but yeah, I would think. I was thinking about that today too. I think deep down inside they would like Chooks to win this job, right? Because yeah, at least you have him under contract, in an additional year, and heck, you might need him to even play left tackle
Hmm.
in 2021. And Banner, is obviously on a 1 year deal and not under contract for 2021 either. So once again, that probably means nothing. The best guy is going to win. The one who they think gives them the best shot at being the best right tackle will win. But I would have to think deep down inside they're hoping Chooks is going to be that guy.
Yeah, I think those are all compelling reasons, and I think that while a smaller reason, I think Banner works better as the sixth offensive lineman than a core four. And how is Banner going to catch a pass if he's the right tackle? So there you go. Let's see. Patrick also says excited for Dr. Mel tomorrow. Boy, she nailed Ben's injury. Wonderful free agent find, Dave. Agree across the board. We'll talk to Dr. Mel in the Terrible Podcast tomorrow. She's called this injury for the longest time, and very happy to have Dr. Melanie Friedlander part of the Steelers Depot team.
Yeah, and if you have any late questions, once again, we've already got about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of them, I think, in the email machine. So if you're listening to this tonight and you want to get a question, hopefully on the podcast on Tuesday for Dr. Mel, send it to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Theterriblepodcast@gmail.com.
And we will answer those questions tomorrow. Pablo Martinez says hello. Hello, Pablo. Duck Swagger, I get fans being mad with players' performance, but the personal hate Switzer, Edmonds, Connor, etc. get from Steeler fans has made me really disappointed in the fan base. Sure, unfortunately, that exists for every fan base, some more than others, some players more than others. I get it to a degree. Obviously, Dave and I can be very critical of players. That's basically our job here is to critique and be honest with these guys, but I don't understand the sometimes like just overly visceral hate for Ryan Switzer. I will criticize him as honestly and upfront as much as anybody, but some people make him the scapegoat whenever he's like the 37th reasons for why a team lost the game. Like it's not a big a deal as some fans make it out to be.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've stated my opinion on him, why I, personally don't think he's a fit or really should be on this roster, the 53. But look, he was on my 53 projection this morning because my job is to kind of project what I think the Steelers would do, not what I would do. So that's why he is on the 53 right now. I think he's going to be hard to beat out from one of those spots. And look, I mean, the dude's, you just, I obviously don't know him, but I follow him on Instagram and just seems like a great down to earth, just a good all around kid, So I mean, it's okay to not like him as a player, but to just be flat out mean to him
Mhm.
and have hate for him. Yeah, I've never gotten that.
Yeah, I don't get the hate that any player would get other than like some sort of egregious off-field issue where, obviously some of that is warranted, but just for not being a great player. But that's Twitter, that's the internet. I mean, that's how it is today. And with Edmonds and Connor, I mean, it same goes for those guys. And if you're a player, you just have to tune it out because that comes with the territory of the profession that you have. Let's see. Donald Nolan says, Battle of the Jersey number. Number 33 is Trey Edmonds and also Curtis Riley. Now, which player wins the Jersey battle and makes roster or practice squad? I know where you're going, Dave. I think we're both in agreement. Curtis Riley has the clear leg up on Trey Edmonds.
Yeah, and it's not saying much, as I've stated ever since he was signed. But right now, Curtis Riley is the second best free safety on the Steelers' 80-man roster. Once again, that's not saying a whole hell of a lot. But from where I sit right now, I like his chances of making the 53 a whole heck of a lot more than I do. Edmonds just what does Edmonds gives you? He gives you a decent special teams player, and that's where it ends, in my opinion. Just a
Hmm.
decent special teams player. Not much of a running back, even though he did have the Steelers' longest run
Against the Colts.
from scrimmage last season. I just don't see any path for Trey Edmonds this year unless some injuries happen, and it's going to be extremely tough. And obviously, my opinion on Riley can change moving forward if they go out and were to trade or do something for another backup safety. But from where I sit right now, Alex, I'm sure you agree with me. I think Riley will be the one wearing that 33.
I'm with you, and be very cognizant of what Dave's saying here with Riley, the second best free safety on the roster. I saw a
Right,
commenter today that thought you were saying he was the second best safety period on the roster, and clear
right,
difference there. Although
right.
he is kind of like the third best safety, would you put him ahead of Dangerfield in just overall talent?
It depends on what you're asking me
Yeah,
or asking the player to do. I think because I think just and look, obviously we haven't seen a lot of Dangerfield on the field. Uh, you know,
for a
just
couple
going
years.
by
Yeah.
that, yeah, just going by that one game. I think it was against the Chiefs.
Hmm.
Man, I don't mind him. I don't mind him playing in the box so much. You
Right.
know,
Right.
but obviously, if you're going to have him in a two deep or for some reason rotate and be a single, a player or two or be in the slot, obviously that's not his specialty. So I guess I would have to quantify that, or have you quantify it and say, okay, you talking about in the box, or you talking about a deep half or a single high look with him.
Right. Riley versus Dangerfield is like Troy versus Reed, only a whole lot worse. That's the way I look at it. Duck Swagger, the question bouncing off that point, does Curtis Riley have a serious chance of making the roster? I think Dave and I basically have answered that already. That yes, I think that barring them adding anyone else, he's likely to make the roster because he is the only other viable backup free safety option behind Minka Fitzpatrick. Dangerfield can play it in the pinch, he's done it before, but Riley is more comfortable and has a better skill set to play there.
Until further notice.
Until further notice. Let's see. Wes Hickok. Am I reading too much into these interviews with the players, or do they seem hungrier than they've been in a very long time? I mean, I think you're going to get that read on basically every team this time of year. I understand the point. Some of the things that is being said about Ben. Some of the things that Ben is saying. Vance McDonald talking about how he sees this fire under Ben that he hasn't seen really ever before, and the chip on the shoulder, the frustration this team has. I'm sure for missing the playoffs 2 years in a row, all those factors. So I'm sure there certainly is a hunger there, but I really couldn't tell you if it's any more than past years, other than the frustration level maybe being higher, which may manifest itself into some extra hunger and chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, I've never been a buyer of he's hungrier this year. He has a bigger chip on his shoulder kind of analysis. Now, I will say that it was interesting to hear David DeCastro kind of describe Ben today and say, kind of a little bit lighter, happier. Look, you miss a, and he said it in so many words. You miss a year of football like that. You probably some of the things that maybe you took for granted, you don't take for granted, as much. So maybe he's a little bit happier of a guy to be around on the practice field. Maybe a little bit lighter during practices than say he was before the injury. But yeah, I mean, I would I would hate to say even more hungry,
Mm.
especially when it comes to a guy like Roethlisberger. Yeah, I don't get into all that.
Brian says, "What's up, Alex? All well." He says, "And you as well, Dave. Doing well, Brian. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it."
Happy Monday, Brian.
Ryan Allen, if the Steelers trade for J.J. Watt, what would they trade? Fire up Madden, because that might be as close as you get to it. It'd be fun. I know it's fun to think about with the Watt brothers, and now to have all three would be fun. But they're not trading for J.J. Watt anytime soon.
It just can't happen from an economic side. I
Hmm.
mean, throw put together whatever package you want, but if you can't afford it from the economic side, then there's no reason to even entertain the thought of it.
There you go. Play Dead 0112. And some all 22 I watched, I've seen Sutton rotate to safety, so why can't they do that route and rotate Edmonds down in the dime? We've talked about that before, Play Dead. I think I talked about it in the podcast this past week at some point. That, yeah, that is an option. That if you want to make sure that Vince Williams is not playing 700 plus snaps and you want to play some dime defense, spin Edmonds down, have Sutton play the deep half in some obvious pass situations where he won't be in the box, that is possible. I think that's honestly the best option if you want to remove Vince Williams from some of those packages, because I don't trust, as much as I like him and am optimistic about him, I don't trust UG3 to do that, especially out of the gate. So I think that is honestly the best way to go about it. Sutton's already out there in dime. You're just kind of changing the role and the positioning a little bit. Let's see. David O is here in the chat. Thank you so much for being here, David O. Duck Swagger. I'm thinking Switzer and Kane grab the 5-6 spots at receiver, but do you think there's a chance like guys like Blacknall? Duck, you're not going to get me. You try this every week. I value an effort, but you're not going to get me on this. I'm not going to run Burgundy and have a chance for that preseason. I'm not sure these questions are even serious anymore, but I think for all those young guys, Blacknall, Johnson, Darbo, given the loss of an offseason, given the loss of a recognizable training camp and certainly a preseason, I think Switzer has a very good chance to make it. If they keep a 6, I think that 6 will be Dion Kane.
Familiarity, I think, is going to rule large
Yep.
right now, and if we had obviously had a full off season, might have been a little bit different. Heck, I think on this 53, Alex, I went from, didn't I have Blackno on my 53,
Hmm.
on my first 53? Now I don't even have him on the practice squad,
Really? Did you keep any
So,
receivers on the practice squad?
huh? Yeah, I kept two of them, Darbo and the other Johnson, Anthony
Okay.
Johnson.
Any
I just
particular reason for that?
I view both those guys as being a little bit more well rounded, I think, and that's really the only reason. Black, no, I think more one trickish, if you will.
Hmm.
And so, that's the way. And look, I obviously don't have anything to go off of since the last time other than kind of deeper research on these players, right? Because obviously we're not not privy to any practices or anything like that. But I think familiarity is going to have play a huge factor in this. And you got familiarity in Switzer, and I guess the big question is do they keep six wide receivers or not? And if they do, because of the familiarity with Deion Kane last year, you would have to think he's kind of in the driver's seat for a six wide receiver spot. But it's really hard to if you put aside any bias that you might have against Switzer just as a player in performance, it's hard to predict right now him not making this 53-man roster. Now it's not impossible, but it's just hard. It's very hard to go against that right now.
Good year to be a veteran. Good year to be a known face in that facility. That's going to give those guys a leg up given the circumstances. Bryan asked, Durham Gray looked to be in great shape entering camp. Think he just doesn't have all the skills yet at all. Dave, what do you think about Durham Gray, a name we don't talk about too much, seventh round pick out of Maryland last season?
I wish we had more tape on him, or I wish I had more tape on him. You know a whole heck of a lot more about him than I do from seeing him at camp.
Hmm.
So I don't think he's a tackle at the NFL level. I mean, he was able to obviously play that at Maryland. I think, I mean, can he be the new Matt Filer?
Mm.
I mean, I'm surprised Matt Filer was the new Matt Filer. Really, way back when he was undrafted. I mean, I think Filer really, it's a really a testament to how he's done, how he's progressed as a player since arriving in Pittsburgh. Because this guy was a cast off from the Texans and somebody else. Why did he
No,
before he got to
I think he
Pittsburgh?
just came from Houston to Pittsburgh.
Okay. I think it's a testament to kind of the work, and that just doesn't, as much as we'd like to think the Steelers are good at developing undrafted and lower round draft picks. I still think Derwin Gray has a lot of development to do from the last I've seen him on tape, which, a little bit in the preseason, I think last year, and that was it. So, I mean, I don't, I guess what I'm saying is I don't have much
Hmm.
more of a different opinion than I did about a year ago when he last played.
Certainly a guy we would be taking a close look at if we had the opportunity to see him this year. You're right, Dave. He's a guard. The Steelers basically said as much as soon as they drafted him. Theoretically they had him a tackle to start, I guess, but he really played guard in the preseason and training camp. He was third team. He was learning a new position because he was only a tackle only with the Terrapins. He was, according to him, injured and dealing with an injury, so that hurt him literally and figuratively all the more. And so you just didn't learn a whole lot about him. He was clearly never going to make a serious push for the 53 last year. This year, maybe a ninth offensive line spot, but you'd have to see the progression he makes from year one to year two. We won't get to see that. So just hard to really give a lot of insight, but he's definitely a guard, and hopefully he's healthy, and hopefully with a year of experience of learning how to play guard will help him. Is that enough to get on the 53? I don't think so. Maybe he bounces on and off the roster. As we mentioned earlier, the roster expanding from 53 to 55. We'll see what happens. Rob Coe, think there was any chance we end up with a trade for Marcus May or maybe even a nose tackle before opening day? Possible for May. I would welcome it. Nose tackle, I think, is less likely. I think they're going to roll with the 6 defensive linemen that they have to make the 53. Colbert is always one to make an August trade. They're very late, usually around August 20th to August 25th is kind of his window, and injuries and illness could dictate those things. So we'll see what happens. Can't discount it with Colbert. He's been very aggressive, but just kind of throwing darts to try to give you a particular on what may happen.
Barring an injury now, when it comes to like a nose tackle, I think I think they trust Alu there, and as much as people, Daniel McCullers is the Ryan Switzer of the defense, I
Yep.
guess, right? But even so, it's hard to imagine right now him not making this 53 as a six defensive lineman there. Now, as far as the whole, possibly adding another safety. Alex and I have entertained the thought of Marcus May for quite a while. There's not many other names out there that would really even fit. Kind of being that guy. Now, once again, it goes back to, would a 6th round draft pick be enough value from the Jets to trade that? Could they get better from another team? Because look, I would think that the Steelers wouldn't be the only team interested in Marcus May for a potential 6th round draft pick. All right, and I was thinking about this earlier today. Hey, Le'Veon Bell could use a familiar face over there, right?
Ooh, ooh, what are we cooking up here, Dave?
How about sending Jalen Samuels
Ooh,
and a 6th round draft pick for Marcus May?
I like it. I could see that. Yeah, because I mean, what's the depth chart running back wise in New York? You got Bell. Is Ty Montgomery still there? I think maybe. But they could use a versatile kind of Bell, like really, really, really poor man's version of Le'Veon Bell and Jalen Samuels, and if Bell ever went down. Yeah, I like that idea.
So that's how you could, and don't they have didn't they get the old man Frank Gore over there?
Oh yeah, he's still around. Yeah, yeah, I could see
So
that.
I think they're running back. Gore's obviously more of a power back, right?
Hmm.
So other than him though, I don't think they have anything over there, do
Do they
they?
still have Ty Montgomery, or is he gone? Because I
I
do
think
not know.
isn't he gone or no?
I'm not. I honestly don't know. I mean, if he is gone though, I mean, and kind of again a similar sense, Montgomery was a former wide receiver who became a running back, kind of like that versatility side of things. Obviously, he didn't play a whole lot behind Le'Veon Bell, who was the guy. But yeah, I could see that because I agree. I mean, I think that there could be teams that would want to trade a fifth and could trade a fifth for Marcus May. The Steelers don't have a fifth because they traded that away in the Chris Worley deal. And for me, I would not give up a fourth. That's just too rich, especially knowing that I'm going to have to rely on the draft to replace all the guys I'm losing because free agency won't be an option. I'll be able to resign all the pending free agents that this team has coming. So a fourth is just going to be too rich for me. So if you could do a sixth and something else like Jalen Samuels, I'm all for that.
Here are the running backs, the Jets running backs under contract. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell, Josh Adams,
Okay.
3rd-year guy out of Notre Dame, Kenneth Dixon, Frank Gore, LaMichael Perrine out of Florida, a rookie, and that is it.
Mm.
So they could use. I mean, they could use a guy, like Jalen Samuels, and that's the only way I was thinking about this. Like I said early this morning, because somebody I think brought up his name on Twitter or something like that, Marcus May, and once again, I think there would be several teams interested in Marcus May for a 6, so you'd have to spice up that deal somehow. And the only way I could see spicing it up would, and especially since the Steelers signed Wendell Smallwood, would be maybe give him Jalen Samuels, who's still on his rookie contract, plus the 6th-round draft pick for Marcus May. That's the only way reasonable I could come up with the Steelers acquiring Marcus May.
Yeah, I like that idea a whole lot. So good call there, Dave. We'll see if it happens. And hey, if Gerald Hawkins can have trade value, then Jalen Samuels can have trade value. And Hawkins back on, he's got picked up by the Texans today, so good for him.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, who's going to last longer, J.J. Wilcox or Gerald Hawkins? Don't answer that. Donald Nolan, did you see the camp highlights with Ben throwing deep end zone pass to Switzer? Switzer makes over-the-head catch with hands and drags to toes. He will be better if they can sneak him out deeper. I will give Switzer this credit, is that I do wish they kind of used him more like a receiver. He's basically been used like a running back his vast majority of his Steelers career, and you have seen him make some plays downfield when given the very few opportunities. So point taken there, Donald, though I don't think that's going to warm him up to Steelers Nation overall.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to run that. They're going to run that slot corner, that slot corner route there. In first trip inside the red zone that they get against the Giants, they're going to run that to Ryan Switzer.
You're mapping out this whole week one. I'm going to watch week one. It's a first play of the game's a deep ball to James Washington, right sideline, right?
66 yards, right?
66 yards. Right? Still have to get to the 34. That's still the least plausible part of that scenario. And Switzer. So I think we don't have, you don't have to stay up for Monday Night Football because Dave's already telling you what's going to happen.
I would just in case, but I think I got it
On the
covered
off
there.
chance you don't get that right.
Uh,
John Pennington, Alex, did you ever do a breakdown of Edmonds' play from last season in the secondary? I don't know if I did. I don't think I ever did a formal tape breakdown. I've done some stuff in the context of lack of playmaking and a couple things on some tackling, maybe, but nothing formally on him. His ball skills are below average. He struggles at the catch point, struggles finding the football. Again, the lack of splash plays is indicative of some of those issues that he had. He's got the same number of career interceptions as his brother, who's a running back, which is a problem, obviously, for all the play time he has. Again, has improved, has gotten better, can continue to improve and get better. Saw that career arc with Bud Dupree, so I don't want to discount that, but just the ball skills aren't there. And usually with those guys, either you have it or you don't. Doesn't seem to have it.
and you would think, you would hope that having last season under his belt with Minka now, they'll be a little bit more on the same page this year, and at some point, they're gonna have to mix up the rotation a little bit where. Minka's not tied to the post all the time. So there are going to be situations where Terrell Edmonds is in the back end by himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the big thing is just don't give up the big play if something like that happens. Obviously, as we mentioned, he needs to make more plays on the football, and even if it is just a pass breakup or something along those lines, we just got to see more playmaking from him. And I think one of the biggest concerns with him is how is he going to do on the back end, on some of those pre-snap rotations where they show maybe too high or something like that, then swing one of those guys down at some point to be able to keep offenses, I think, honest. Minka's going to have to be that guy to go down sometimes.
Absolutely, and just for his own benefit of being able to make different plays at different spots of the field instead of, as you said, being tied to the post like that. You want to make sure you're moving him around, getting him involved so offenses can't game plan around him. That's going to be, I think, a critical factor. Again, we are here for another half hour, Dave and I, answering any and all of your Steelers questions. Donald Nolan has another.
I think regardless of how he plays, I mean, it's going to be tough for him. I mean, he's really going to have a good year to warrant them picking up his fifth year option. So that's going to entail him making quite a few plays on the football. We'll get a good sense of what the Steelers really think about Terrell Edmonds after the season, because they'll have to shortly after the draft time make a decision on whether or not to pick up his fifth year option. You would think if they had to make that decision right now, they would not do it. This is a big season, even though it's not a contract year for him. It kind of sort of is, because this season determines whether or not the Steelers pick up his fifth year option after the season.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Donald Nolan, another Jersey battle, number 49, James Lockhart or Dax Raymond. Who wins? Two guys who've never taken a snap in a Steelers uniform. Lockhart, undrafted free agent outside linebacker from Baylor. Raymond, I think, second year tight end from Utah State. I think you had
I think you
Raymond.
could see both those guys on the
Yep.
practice squad.
You had both on there.
Yeah,
On the
I do
roster.
have both of them on there. And look, neither one are overly dynamic. Raymond has some okay stuff on his tape, but not a lot of downfield stuff, and that's the big thing for him really to I think stick out during this training camp. It's going to have to be as a blocker. First and foremost, and with the Baylor product, he's just not that twitchy of a. I mean, he's got some nice pass rush moves. We saw him do a few things with the rip, and he doesn't have a lot of bend with him. He's just not a dynamic pass rusher. So, but as things stand right now, I think he's the only outside linebacker outside of the top five, right? I mean, don't they only have six outside linebackers on this roster right now?
Yeah,
And
because
he's number
Hendricks got released.
right, and he's number six. So I think neither one of them I think have a chance to make the 53, but I think there's an outside chance both of them could end up on a practice squad with a 16-man practice squad.
Right, it does say something that you're right. He's like the last other outside linebacker remaining, because they released Hendricks, they released
Right,
Kuntz,
right.
and I think it's just Lockhart behind, obviously, Ola and Highsmith and Skipper and Bud and Watt.
And I think that says a little. So I don't
It
know
does.
what it
Says
says.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it says, but it says something about something they like him, and I think it's probably his overall pass repertoire because he's not a once again he's not a twitchy. I broke down the sacks and probably have done the deepest look at him of him of anybody maybe on the site, but he doesn't have a lot of bend to him. Not overly athletic. I think what impressed me the most with him was a little bit of his pass rush move repertoire that he has. And he will, once he goes up the arc, if he gets stymied, he'll try to work back up. But too many times you do see him get kind of stymied
Hmm.
up the arc on there. But once again, I don't know what it says because none of us there are at practice. But the fact that he is that six outside linebacker at this point right now, I think says something.
It does. Will it be enough? We'll see. But he's still here, and that's all that matters. Richard Jameson is asking me when I'm going to get out of the train station area. Hopefully soon. I'm looking at a little house buying right now at some point, maybe in the relatively
Are
near
you
future.
really?
A little
That's
bit,
that's
yeah.
news to me.
I know, yeah. We're breaking some news here on the live stream. Just kind of looking, not anything super serious, but maybe by the end of the year, we might be making a move here, get away from the train station. It's a good motivator because I'm getting tired of this thing. Stupid trains. Next time it's the worst. And they have the one road closed. Now the only way to leave town is to cross the train tracks, and inevitably you get stuck behind the train, and it's just a disaster.
You don't have central heat and air in there either, do you?
No, I don't have AC upstairs. I've been living downstairs for like a month now because
Oh
it's just too
Lord.
hot to be upstairs. I'm doing this from my couch, which is not an ideal scenario to work from. Anyway, enough about me. JP Fitta Fitta, any chance Switzer is not terrible? A lot of Switzer here in the chat, and I hope he's not watching. He might tweet about it. I'm very glad that Switzer is not being counted on for a big role. We'll put it that way. Let's see, John Fletcher. Who would you sign to an extension if they both have a healthy Pro Bowl caliber season, Juju or Connor? I think we would both agree Juju, but I'll let you speak for yourself.
Right. Look up the word fungible.
And you would see a running back's face, and you would see Dave Bryan pointing to the word fungible.
I just look. I love the kid. I think he's fantastic. I think he's got the opportunity to have a 1,400, 1,500 total yards from scrimmage season, similar to what he had in 2018. But even if he was to stay healthy for all 16 games, somehow manage, let's say, 2,000 yards from scrimmage. Even that I don't think's enough. I think what you do is you applaud him. You hope he signs a nice contract in free agency, and then you take whatever compensatory value you can get for him. He's not Le'Veon Bell. You're not going to throw the franchise tag on him. If he has anywhere decent of a 1,500 total yard from scrimmage season, he's going to he'll already be priced out of, I think, the Steelers market for what they probably want to spend. Remember, this is a team that's going to have cap challenges. I'm doing air quotes there. Cap challenges, or they're going to be cap challenged next off season. I just don't see it. And look, I mean, even if it is Juju, it's not going to be an extension with Juju. You're going to have to tag him and then go from there with a possible extension. I just can't see Juju not. I just can't see Juju just accepting a middle of the rung kind of deal without at least testing free agency. I think he'd be. I think he owes it to himself to do that. So, in the end, I don't think either one of these guys sign extensions. So, I think the best case scenario about retaining Juju is him having a 2018 like season and then getting the franchise tag from the Steelers.
Well said. I agree. I think tag and go from there is probably the best path for Juju. Connor, good season, bad season, just can't see the path again, especially given all the quote cap challenges this team has.
And even if you wanted to tag right now, it's hard to come up with
It
a
is.
way to get the tag on the Juju right now. So that's we'll see how things obviously transpire, but that's going to be part of that challenge.
Wes Hitchcock, if we keep six receivers, what position loses, air quotes, a roster spot to account for it? Probably keeping just 8 offensive linemen is the way that I think our rosters have both been constructed, 8 O linemen.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Eric Schaefer just dropping in to say, go Steelers. Go Steelers, Eric. Thank you for being here. Patrick Donovan, I'm going to try and get a question in tomorrow with Minka on SNU. Anything either of you would like me to ask? Yeah, we did not get Vance McDonald's question, unfortunately. But what would I ask Minka? I don't know what I would ask Minka. He's done a lot of interviews this offseason, it feels like. So maybe just talking about versatility, moving around. Some if they've talked to him about moving around a little bit, and if he's going to play less of the free safety spot and be able to just be more versatile in his second year with the team.
You know what? I would like to know how instrumental, how much he was able to learn from Terrell Edmonds.
Mm,
How much did Terrell Edmonds help him in that first season?
okay, I like that.
I think that would be because look, we saw some of the some of that on Game Pass, right? In the segment that they had with him and all with what's his name?
Brian Baldinger.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Baldinger and all. And there was, we saw that one clip of Edmonds, get, pointing him down and all like that. And I would just like to know overall what, how instrumental Terrell Edmonds was in helping Minka acclimate to the defense last year.
I'm gonna race you a Terrell Edmonds with a Terrell Austin, and just so I want to know that dynamic with him and Tom Bradley and what Austin's brought to the table and everything, because we know that while Austin's still technically listed as an assistant, he's running the room. So I just kind of want to hear that a little bit more specifically and concretely from Minka. Let's see here, but thank you, Patrick. If you can ask that, hey, any question, Dave questions or another one, we'd be appreciative of it. Let's see. Eric Schaefer, did we already talk about Big Ten not playing football? We've kind of touched on the college football up in the air. Some conferences will play, some won't. It's a mess right now. Everything's changing by the hour, it feels like. So I
And
can't even keep up.
I'm not even sure. There was that report I think from the Detroit Free Press saying that yeah, definitely the Big Ten's been, but I don't think the Big Ten's officially let out any release on that
Hmm.
yet.
The
So
Yeah,
I don't think they're officially making a decision until tomorrow.
right.
But man, what a mess, Alex.
What a
I mean,
mess.
even I mean, what are we looking at? The SEC and maybe the what else? The ACC.
SEC, Big 12. I don't know. I can't keep up with it right now. Pac 12, I'm not even sure what's going on out west right now. But yeah, it's a mess. We know the Mac's not playing. So the Steelers, that's Mike Tomlin's go to. I don't know how they're going to draft this year without the Mac.
And obviously you wouldn't think. I mean, there's not going to be a full schedule, right?
Nah, it seems like mostly just in conference stuff.
Right. So I mean, we talk about 6 or 7 games per team. I think probably max. And I don't know. This thing almost like you said changes every hour. It sure has been a depressing 2000 or 2020. Ooh.
Sure has. John Pennington, would you keep McCullers and why when there's better talent? I think you're answering part of your own question there, John. If it was up to me, I probably wouldn't, but I've just kind of come to the reality that they are going to. And partly, and the biggest reason why you'd keep McCullers is, again, lack of an offseason, lack of everything this summer. Those young guys don't have a chance to prove themselves. A Carlos Davis, a Savon Walker, Henry Mondo, which someone has a question about or comment about here in a moment. And then, I mean, outside of Mondo, because you know him a little bit from last year, just some of those guys have an opportunity. And again, veterans rule the day in this scenario. Big Dan's the veteran, 7th year in the league he's going into. He's probably going to stay.
Familiarity.
Yep. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So listen, I get the gripes with McCullers. I'm right there with you. He has improved the last 2 years. Carl Dunbar's been the best thing for Big Dan. I've given him high praise in training camps. I want to be very clear about that. I think I've been very fair to Big Dan, but I'd be okay with moving on from him. Doubt they do. Patrick, Donovan, and Alex DeCastro pretty much shored up your theory thoughts that Villanueva could retire after this season. Yeah, I read the quotes a little bit more, and it maybe wasn't as clear as the way the media initially made it out to be the report. But yeah, it's something you have to consider. Not only, just would he go to play for another team, or he's somebody that's going to be 33, I think, by next September, I believe, and has shoulder issues. And obviously, he's a very bright guy with a great future and can definitely move on with life's work. He's not defined by football. So it's getting harder to see a scenario where Villanueva is back in Pittsburgh next season.
What's he got? One young kid, I think, right?
I'm not sure on the family situation. I
Uh,
believe you
but
though.
but he's got probably he comes off as a guy that's probably been pretty good with his money. I know he's got what the USAA commercials. Probably got a little bit of something coming in from there. I bet he's been good. He probably got military checks coming in on top of it. He's got an MBA,
Yeah,
right?
from Carnegie Mellon, great school, business degree, I think.
So look, I Does he really want to play outside of Pittsburgh and sign another 3 or 4 year deal? I kind of doubt it unless they blew his socks off, blew his doors off, money wise. And I think you just what you said was a key point there. I don't think football defines him. I think, and especially if the Steelers were somehow to win it all this year, I think that'd be enough for him, Alex. I,
Hmm.
I, I, I really, really do. I think, regardless, either way, I think this is Big Al's final year with the Steelers. So make sure you look. I mean, you look at the amount of games this guy has started consecutively. You go back in time when it comes to Steelers. This is the Steelers, like it or not, this is the Steelers' best left tackle since at least Marvell Smith. And I had to go back and watch some Marvell Smith tape. Marvell Smith was obviously good in his era and all. If Alejandro Villanueva was a little bit better run blocker, I think it'd be slam dunk maybe
Hmm.
Villanueva. But that kind of puts Marvell in the picture there. But definitely, I think the Steelers' best starting left tackle since Marvell Smith. And how many? Marvell Smith didn't play that long, did he?
Well, he had
Consecutive
those
games,
back issues that ended
right?
his career. Yeah, he was like a better player, but he just had the issues that ended his career.
And it says something for a guy that size, of Villanueva's size, which is kind of unnatural, right?
Hmm.
And to be in some of the positions that he's in, for him to have the consecutive game streak that he has right now, and to play like he's played, I really think speaks volumes. I don't think Alejandro Villanueva gets the credit from the fan base that he deserves overall.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, he's had a tough matchups with Miles Garrett, but Miles Garrett gives basically every tackle in football a lot of fits. But with Villanueva, he just that shoulder bugs him every year in training camp. He's just always got that thing wrapped. It's always becoming, I think, more and more of a problem with him. So, whether that's he's got a bigger contract somewhere else because he deserves it and he does, or whether he just wants to walk away, I think those scenarios are more likely than him coming back on a new deal next year with Pittsburgh. Let's see. Patrick Donovan, a player I haven't heard mentioned is Henry Mondo. Does he play or could he play nose? I have to go back at my notes to see if he played any nose in preseason or in training camp last year. Maybe a little bit. He's more of an N3 tech type guy. A guy that I kind of keep forgetting about that I shouldn't because he did look legitimately, promising last season and got some quality reps. So good chance he's back around the practice squad.
Nice little spin he has. I think one of the things that stuck out to me about preseason last year, and yet another reason why it's sad that we don't have preseason to watch
Yep.
some of the guys like this. But I think they like him enough that he's going to make the practice squad. Alex, I would consider him and Carlos Davis. I think are slam dunks to be the two defensive linemen on the practice squad.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Especially now that Coatney's been released, kind of clears that up a little bit. And Mondo's got some hands. He made a diving catch on a fake field goal in camp last year. So, dude's a good athlete. All right, Verdon Barzy, what's up, guys? Listen all the time. Only comment when needed. Thank you for being here, Verdon. We know Ben is the one guy we cannot lose on offense, but on defense, who would that be? Minka, Bush, Watt? I'm gonna go. It's close. I'm gonna go Minka just because again the drop off to the next guy and how hard that is. If you lose Watt, obviously it's a big loss, but you can kind of hide some of that stuff schematically, ability to create and generate pressure. It's hard to schematically hide your free safety like that. So losing Minka without great depth options behind him, at least you have Riley, but still big drop off. Minka would be the biggest loss.
That's tough. I was going to say either him or Devin Bush, having a guy in the middle, because having an inside linebacker that can play every down and cover the kind of ground that he does. We saw what happened when the team lost Ryan Shazier a couple years ago, 2/3 of the way through the season. Right, it became
Mm-hmm.
a totally different defense.
Right. Well, they also
Uh,
tried to
uh,
plug that by signing Sean Spence and moving Arthur Moats
right,
to inside linebacker. Both terrible ideas.
right. Instead of putting
Fort.
uh, Fort in there. Yeah, I never will understand that one. But and it would have been it would at least been interesting to see how Fort would have been able to ride that out the rest of the way. But anyway, yeah, I would choose Minka or Bush.
Let's see here. Mr. ABS and Wes Sickox says Ty Montgomery plays for the Saints. So thank you, Wes, for giving that information. Mr. ABS, coincidental that May picked off Duck Hodges corner end zone pass to Samuels. Good point. Maybe see a swap there. All right, let's
What
see.
what was that?
He was talking about it. The Marcus May picked off
Oh,
Duck
oh
Hodges on a
yeah,
pass intended for Jalen Samuels, referencing
that was
your
just a bad decision too. But
yeah, a lot of those bad decisions, but your reference to the omen of maybe Samuels and a hypothetical trade
hey,
back to the
there you
Jets.
go. Yeah,
Yeah, there you
there's a
go.
link there.
Yep. Let's see. Big Switzer debate here with you guys. Andresa, I'm probably saying that incorrectly. I apologize. Hey, from Montreal. Thank you for being supporting us from up north. Have you ever considered affiliating with a Steelers organization? You'd get more in-depth access to position coaches and front office upper management. Don't know if they like us too much, Dave.
No, they don't. None of them guys like us too much. Look, at one time they played the podcast, on when Steelers Nation Radio was just starting out, and they needed stuff to fill the air with, right?
Hmm.
So look, I'm thankful for that, but as a whole, because we work so hard. To be honest with you, and that's what it is. We outwork everybody else, and that's caused some dissent, if you will, not only from the organization, but people that cover the team as well. Look, I'm fine with those guys all being microphone holders. We'll continue doing what we do.
Yeah. And
That's
honestly,
classic Dave being cocky, I know, but
well,
look, we're very confident. I've got we've got a great team. I don't know how else to describe it. We got a lot of great guys producing content on this site, and I'm proud of them.
we do, and I am as well. But I would also say getting too close with the organization, because obviously, like the guys that work for the team website, they can only say so much negative about the team, and not say a whole lot negative about the team, and that does not jive with our honest and fair assessment of things. So you don't want to get too close either, because it can muddy your evaluation, your opinions. To be honest.
Right, and I know some probably have to, you know, having to be in the locker rooms and be around those guys, even though I wouldn't have any problem writing one thing and walking in and talking to a player about it,
Hmm.
if you can't. But I know a lot of them don't have the backbone to be able to do that, and some think it will hinder them getting future interviews and all. But let's face it, how much breaking news is there nowadays, especially in locker room settings? You
Hmm.
know,
Right.
anymore. But once again, look, we'll gladly let them be the microphone holders, if and we'll continue doing what we do. So I don't really think we're missing out on all that too much of it. After all, we're here to watch football, and that's the best part I think about what we do is the watching and the analyzing of it. And if we can't have the microphone in the face and that be a trade-off, I'm fine with it.
Amen. Richard Hudspeth, next year, do you have to draft another slot receiver if Juju leaves? If he does, yeah, I don't know how you replace it in the slot. So, I mean, unless Claypool really looks good there, even though he's not really an ideal slot guy, you're gonna have to plug a lot of holes in the draft next year, regardless, because you're losing a lot of key guys. I'll say that much, Richard.
One quick thing going back to that, in the media aspect, if we had any affiliation whatsoever, if we were credentialed, you can bet your butt they wouldn't let Alex kind of do the reporting that Alex does at training camp. They would put a
Hmm.
kibosh on that right away. Several members of the media already don't like what Alex does at training camp and think that we have an unfair advantage of that in that aspect. And I guarantee you, if either one of us were credentialed, that they would use that as a reason to put the kibosh on what Alex does out there at training camp.
Yeah, and I would also say it's not like we don't have breaking news stories. We've done some breaking news stories over the years. I mean, the biggest one was Le'Veon Bell getting hurt and tearing his MCL several years back. I mean, that got us an Adam Schefter shout out. So we try to do everything. We're not just one bucket only. If we can do breaking news and analysis, then I think that's the best thing for the site for us. All right. The question about Juju in the slot, though, if they lose Juju, how do you replace him in the slot? That's a very valid question. Whoever asked that, yeah, Richard asked that question.
Replacing Juju in the slot, yeah, that's going to be tough. I mean, obviously Claypool has done some of it.
Yeah, a little bit, and enough to do that every down. Obviously, we have to see how this season goes, but that is a very valid point, Richard. Let me get through a couple more questions here before we have to end the live stream. Again, thank you so much for everybody being here. Over 50 strong here in the chat today. Randall asks, "Hey, how often do you think Cam Sutton will be used at safety this year? Edmonds can shift down to sub package linebacker, maybe." Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the live stream, Randall. That I think that is an option to curtail a bit of Vince Williams snaps and to use whenever you use dime to have Edmonds slide down and have Sutton play the deep path. I think I'm open to that. They've done a little bit of that already, so not completely brand new, and I think that's a good way to look at it. Richard Hudspeth, are we overlooking Spillane? His socials have been crazy with diet and workouts. I admit I have not followed Robert Spillane on social media, but I think he was an insanely good special teams player last year, replacing UG3 when he went down with that back injury and had like 10 tackles in whatever that was, 8 games, 6 games, whatever the number was. So he'll be back as that core special teams player and a very good one at that, Richard.
4-core stud.
Yep. And it's been very valuable to have because they lost. There's continuity on offense and defense, but special teams they lost a lot of guys. Nix, Metakevich, Chicolo. A lot of guys are gone, and you won't have the opportunity to rep it in preseason and in training camp. You don't get to rep special teams like that. It's very hard to replicate that. So good to have a guy like Spillane coming back. Let me see here. Austin's asking about stat predictions. Honestly, if you have an answer for it, Dave, feel free. But you're just spitballing, trying to get ideas for stat predictions at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we got five weeks. 5 weeks sounds like that train's there, but I don't. What stat predictions is he wanting?
Yeah, the train is here. Unfortunately, Deontay, Juju, Washington, basically the receivers. Deontay, Juju,
Oh
Gallup,
yeah,
those
let's
guys.
give us. I mean, we've been spitball. Just listen to the podcast because
Mhm.
we throw some of those out there occasionally.
Yeah, for sure. Rob Coe, I see Justin Lane has problems covering speedy receivers. That has bothered me ever since they drafted him. Got anything to reassure me? I had those same questions, Rob. I think I saw a guy with some stiffness and a lack of long speed, average time speed, and that was a concern. Obviously, I haven't gotten to see a lot of him in his NFL career, but I still harbor those same concerns, Rob. Let's see here. What else do we have? A couple more questions. Desmond Barnes, if the Steelers decline Edmonds' fifth-year option, do you think it's a possibility on them trading for a strong safety like they did to get Fitzpatrick? Dave, your thoughts?
Now, here's the thing: if they don't pick up his 5th-year option, it just means that 2021 after 2021 he would become a unrestricted free agent. That's all that means. So obviously this is what is his 3rd season, right? So if they did not pick up his 5th-year option next April or May, whenever the deadline is, then that would mean that he would be set to become an unrestricted free agent after the 2021 season. In the meantime, they won't. I don't think they will do anything, other than that, and go out and trade. It'd be much like kind of a, no, no, I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let's see if I can find a couple more on Andresa. And again, I might be saying that wrong. I can apologize. During training camp, you guys talk a lot about reps, and that rookies or non-starters are getting less reps. What are they doing in the meantime then, just watching the starters? Yeah, they're just kind of on the sidelines, waiting to go in next. They're taking mental reps, hopefully. They're listening to the call. They're, like I said, hopefully digesting things that are going on and listening to coaches. But there was a decent amount of downtime, especially with a smaller field. And just given the whole COVID situation, it makes things all the more tougher. Let's see here. Let me go through 2 or 3 more, and then we'll wrap up the stream. If I can find the next question here. You guys are having some conversations, which is cool. I appreciate. Let's see if I can find another question here. Wes Hickok, I'm curious. Forgive me, Alex, but I guess I haven't paid close enough attention. What do you do during training camp that the so-called experts don't like? I mean, I don't listen to a lot of what people do or don't like about me, but I would just imagine it's just and I don't mean to sound cocky about this, but I think it's the
Do it.
most.
Sound it. Do it.
Dave, you're a bad influence.
If you don't, I will.
I know. That's what I'm afraid of. I think that we do the most detailed, in-depth report of training camp of anybody, maybe even like across the league, because we tell you every single thing that happens to give you the best feel that you were sitting next to me at Latrobe. And I would say, yeah, that if you were credentialed and you're standing on the field, it'd be a lot harder to take notes because me getting to sit down, have notes on my lap, and be able to take notes that way in the bleachers certainly makes that a whole lot easier to do. So I think just the level of detail in the reports, and hopefully that a lot of people, of course, gravitate towards our tweets and our coverage of training camp. That's why I'm very bummed I could not be there this year. I think just the coverage overall and the scope and the depth that we have is something that is uncommon for not only Pittsburgh but most teams across the NFL.
It's not bragging if you can back it up.
You've said that in a bar a time or two somehow,
I
right?
have, and I a
Didn't
couple
end
of
well.
times I wasn't able to back it up. Yeah,
uh,
there's a thing called getting the I dotted.
yeah. Well, all right. I'm gonna leave it there. Ron 92. Where do you think they're headed this year schematically on the offensive side of the ball? Possibly shorter or quicker passes to avoid Ben from getting hit this year. I mean, they were kind of going that way in 2018, right, Dave? They were pretty
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
ball.
Look up the do a research real quick on Dink or Dink Dunk
Hmm.
on Steelers Depot real quick, and yeah, you can find an article. Look, I mean, he got the ball. If there's one thing that Todd Haley gets credit for during his time in Pittsburgh, it was making getting Ben to get rid of football quicker, and I think you're going to see a little bit of a continuation of that. Now, obviously, we hope there's a little bit more play action than we've seen out of Ben the last couple years with more success with that play action. But even so, I don't think you're going to see a lot of Ben holding on to the football too long because you just asking for problems to sit. This isn't. You don't want Ben to have to do things that Ben had to do 10 years ago. In the pocket and fight off rushers and all like that. Obviously, there are going to be opportunities for him to extend the play. That's still what makes Ben one of the one of the top quarterbacks in the league are those situations. But I don't think you want to ask for that a lot. I think you want to see a lot of timing stuff. I think you're going to see a lot more underneath, a lot more middle of the field stuff and all like that. I think you're going to see him use his backs out of the backfield like he did with James Conner in 2018 as well too. So I don't, other than utilization of that motion, which has been a huge buzz ever since Canada was hired, and actually having the play start with the player in motion, not so much for the player coming to a rest after motion. I think that's one aspect that you're going to see a little bit more. But they pretty much have already told you you're just going to see different things kind of stacked on to what they're already doing. Because quite honestly, there's not a lot of time to have if you want to take advantage of the situation right now with there not being an off season, you just want to kind of take what you already have and build upon it. So in other words, I think you're going to see a lot of what you saw last season, except with more kind of tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like Matt Canada's gonna have an influence greater than just being the quarterback's coach. But to your point, yeah, I think in 2018, I believe Ben was either first or second in snap to throw times. It was right after I believe with Aaron Rodgers. So they got the ball out quick, and I think that'll continue, especially with some shifty receivers like Deontay Johnson. Even Chase Claypool was someone that worked best on the underneath routes last year that allowed him to build up speed and run long. So I think that's still going to be the offensive mentality, of course, with the same OC. I'm not seeing any major changes there. One last question, one last comment. Jamal Curtis says, "Do you know the interview where Brady cries about his dad being his hero? Well, that is how I feel about Dave and Alex. I'm not quite sure how to take that, but thank you, Jamal, for the comment. Hot Dog Bun 96 is not enough thumbs up on this video. Come on, Steeler Nation. If you give the video a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. Stephen Ray asks, final question here. How do you see the running backs turning out this year? Any breakout season contenders? When it comes to breakout, it is dependent on James Conner's health. If he plays 14 games, really won't have an opportunity for someone to break out. But I am high on Benny Snell. I think we've both very much warmed up to Anthony McFarland, and I do think the running back depth for this team is actually pretty good. Any thoughts there, Dave, with the running back
Yeah, I
situation?
don't think that. I'll tell you what. I don't think they have the worst running back depth chart in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere probably around 19 or 20. Right? I think that's fair. Bottom third of the league until they prove otherwise. But and look, obviously James Conner needs to stay healthy. It'd be nice to have Snell come in and spell him every once in a while as the power back there. And then how much can they get Anthony McFarland used in this offense? 75 to 100 snaps, you would think would be the ceiling on that. But obviously, if he's able to make plays sooner rather than later, that'll help get him on the field. As Alex and I have said several times with him, you got to getting him on the field means you have to get him carries so that the little red flashing light on his helmet don't go off every time he does run on the field. So if you use him as a running back first, you'll be able to utilize the rest of his talents a lot easier when he comes into the game there. So I'm looking forward to it. But once again, I think Connor needs to stay healthy, and if given the opportunity, Benny Snell has got to take advantage of whatever amount of touches he gets.
Agreed. And as Matt Canada said, the team expects a niche role. He expects at least a niche role for McFarland. So hopefully that can be where he starts and grow from there if the door opens, which it probably will at some point during the season. So that's going to do it for Dave and I. We will be back next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys for being in the chat, asking so many great questions. Dave, as always, thanks for being here.
Yeah, we'll talk about my 53-man roster prediction on the podcast on Tuesday. We'll have Dr. Mel on answering questions. Should be a good show overall. Appreciate everybody joining us, and make sure you tell your friends and like this thing or thumbs up or whatever you're supposed to do with these things on YouTube.
Yeah, and be sure to follow Dave over on Steelers Depot on Twitter. Be sure to follow our Facebook page on Steelers Depot. We've gotten a couple good number of increases in likes on the Facebook page lately. So appreciate you guys checking out the page on there to stay tuned to everything Steelers Depot related. All right, we will be back in a week next Monday. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.